Okay.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Yeah. Popeyes.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Movie Vault. I'm Ben.
I'm Zach.
And today we are reviewing the 1980 black and white motion picture Raging Bull, directed by Martin Scorsese.
Woo!
I think that's how you pronounce his name. I go back and forth between Scorsese and Scorsese, so somebody can correct me on that if they really have an opinion. I'm sure there's a right answer. Also written by Paul Schrader, who also wrote Taxi Driver. And he became a director eventually.
Does he work with Scorsese in other projects too?
I believe so. I know. Well, he worked in Taxi Driver. I actually don't know whether he continued to write with Scorsese, but
he got fired after that because it sucked.
He went on to direct his own movies. Actually, he's directed 24 movies. I didn't realize he directed that many. But one of his most well-known movies that has come out recently is First Reformed with Ethan Hawke.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say I don't know, the new Lizzo show.
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Where the big girls out? Is that what it's called?
That would be very funny if that's if he was known for that. He also he directed this one called Blue Collar. I put on my list. Apparently, got really good reviews. It has Richard Pryor and Harvey Keitel. Seems like an interesting cast to me.
Now, Ben, I'm a stupid millennial. No, not a millennial. I'm a stupid Gen Z, and I don't appreciate movies. I just go to the Blockbuster to see superheroes fight each other. Right.
Right.
Now, this Scorsese guy, what does he do? Does he direct Euphoria? What's his deal?
What's his deal? Well, I think Martin Scorsese speaks for himself. There's a few directors who can, you put, especially these days, gone are the days that directors matter as much because we're in the superhero era. It actually matters. You do all your independent work so that you can eventually work for Marvel or DC or both. And usually you only work for DC because you said something offensive and you got fired from Marvel, and then you have to go to DC for a little bit, and then Marvel hires you back because they decide it wasn't that bad what you did. But Martin Scorsese, I guess it's known as the film school era. So he came up, presumably, he went to Tisch School of Arts, and he made, I think his first movie was not that well known. It was like, What's the Deal About Alice or something like that. That's definitely not what it's called. Who's Knocking at My Door was his first one, and then Boxcar Bertha. Okay, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore is 1974. But his first maybe well-known successful movie was Mean Streets, which is also one of Robert De Niro's first major performances. And Robert De Niro was not the main character, Harvey Keitel was, but that led the way to Taxi Driver, which was his breakout movie, and then Raging Bull was his next major movie after that, because I don't really know what New York is. I think it was vignettes. But after that, he would go on a tear, pretty much. He would go on to direct The King of Comedy, After Hours, The Color of Money, The Last Temptation of Christ, Goodfellas, Cape Fear, The Age of Innocence, Casino. All of those movies are pretty well known. Some of them are more well known than others, especially Goodfellas. And then he made Kundun, which was not a very successful movie. And then he had some other, Bringing Out the Dead, Gangs of New York, The Aviator. That was kind of a down period in Scorsese if you're going to pick an era. And then he made The Departed, which he finally won an Academy Award for. Shutter Island, which is more popular with our generation. And then more recently, Hugo, The Wolf of Wall Street, Silence, and The Irishman, all of which have done pretty well. And now in 2023, Killers of the Flower Moon.
So I hear you. I heard what you just said, but me, a dumb Gen Z, was he in Squid Game?
He was not in Squid Game.
Oh, then I don't care.
All right. Well, that's the end of the episode, guys. No, he wasn't in Squid Game. He also has not really changed his movie style, so it's perhaps catered more towards older people who still like the same types of movies and aren't willing to adjust to the times. So not the Euphoria crowd.
Like racists.
Although he probably walked so Euphoria could run.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm just unfazed by
that makes sense.
Yeah. Because really a lot of I don't think we think about this as much anymore because of maybe the state that our media is in, but Scorsese's movies were very vulgar and at least language-wise, and it usually involved characters who were pretty morally bankrupt as the centerpiece. I mean, Taxi Driver is kind of one of the original anti-hero movies. And then, of course, Raging Bull, what does it have, like 153 F words in it or something?
Something of the sort.
It has a lot. And
it's over 150.
I believe The Wolf of Wall Street broke the record that was originally set by...
Oh, he broke his own record?
I think he broke his own record.
Well, good for him.
It might have been Goodfellas, and then he broke it with Wolf of Wall Street. So he's not afraid to have a little profanity in his movies. Certainly not. And he also loves working with Robert De Niro. So lots of team-ups with De Niro. Joe Pesci also. Really, this is Joe Pesci's major work was all with Scorsese.
I thought it was Home Alone.
Well, that may be his most well-recognized. Isn't that funny?
No, I thought he should have won an award for that. That's the only one I've seen as a stupid Gen C.
They were having a hard time getting him to not cuss in that movie. They had to have him mutter stuff under his breath. Because if you ever watch Joe Pesci, he was built for Martin Scorsese movies. Let's just put it that way. But so this movie really, I think, set the stage for the rest of Scorsese's career because it delves into the rise and fall model, which would be something that he would model a lot of his movies off of. And as opposed to a movie like Taxi Driver, where we see a disturbed man who perhaps gets some redemption at the end of the movie, even if it's like not, it's maybe a little bit misunderstood what his redemption is. This movie just is a depiction of a guy whose life just keeps getting worse over time. It's really not great from the start, wouldn't you say? His first marriage is already in shambles by the time we first meet Jake LaMotta. No,
yeah, it doesn't take long for you to realize that it's not going to end well for this character.
Yeah, but we do know that this guy's a major boxer, and to be honest, it was a little bit hard to follow like which boxing matches really mattered. One thing I noted is this movie might be labeled as a sports movie, but I feel like it's not really a sports movie.
No.
The sports are decidedly at the second.
No, he hit more women than opponents.
Right. Yeah, it's way more about his off the field conflict than his on the field.
Yeah.
Or the ring.
No, you're right. I think that's true. I mean, even an aspect of that would be where in movies now you have the hype, you have the build up for the big game.
Right.
You know, whereas this, it just cuts right to all these games, and it's just like they're over in 10 seconds.
And they're like breaking points in between the action off the ring. So they're like, oh, now we got to watch him fight. Now the fighting scenes that they have are good. Like they show his like strategy, and like apparently Jake LaMotta, who is a real person, who this was based off of, was known for not necessarily being the strongest, but for just like pummeling his opponents. And you could see that he would like wear him down, and then he had this aggression, and he like knew, you could like see it in his eyes that he knew he had them. So we initially see like a lot of the conflict revolves around Jake and his relationship with his wife Vicky. The first red flag in this whole relationship is that Jake and Vicky meet when Vicky is 15 years old. So that's not great, but I guess you can't really, I guess you have to use the excuse different time because they got married. I'm assuming she was pretty young when they got married still.
I mean, they weren't trying to hide anything. You know what I mean? Like they weren't like, oh, let's keep it on the down low.
No, I guess it just wasn't as, like you would say that this is probably a thing that maybe society has improved on, right? Like
maybe
it wasn't as looked down upon. Perhaps it was still in this era where it's like people grew up faster, like we didn't delay. But it still feels, I don't know how much older he was, it still feels like that could be a definite red flag, because if it's a 25-year-old guy who's 10 years old, there's a huge like difference in maturity and all kinds of things. So
that's okay. Even if that's not a red flag, there are a couple more that come pretty quickly.
So yeah, you could see that's the first thing you're like, yeah, this sounds not great.
By the way, sorry, that when they met each other, that was all improvised.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So when they met at the fence.
Hey, yeah,
mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I could see that though. Like I could see them being.
It was a little awkward.
Because it was awkward.
Yeah.
So that's probably why they improvised it.
She's like, let me get my stuff. I'll be back in a while.
Like, and it was weird because it's like, obviously it seemed like Jake was not supposed to be like socially that well adept. Because he was a boxer, kept getting hit in the head. Because he would say stuff like, "Hey, I want to go for a drive." Like it was not. He would never talk about anything that was complicated, or like he wouldn't use like huge elaborate.
What you
phrases.
talking about?
It'd be like short sentences. He repeated himself a lot.
Hey, you messing with me?
Yeah.
He's just reacting constantly throughout the movie.
Yeah, and a big thing becomes that he's worried that Vicky is has interests in other men, which leads to him trying to kind of and this is sparked by a comment she makes about Tony Gennaro, who's a young boxer who's apparently good looking, that he's gonna fight. There's also a mob boss, Tony Como, who we see who's Joe Pesci is sort of working with. Joe Pesci being Jake LaMotta's brother in the movie, who's kind of his manager. So he's working on the money side, and apparently the money in boxing had a lot to do with betting. So there was a lot of maybe illegal activity going on around the boxing community. But Jake really didn't want to work with these people, but he kind of had his brother be his liaison if he had to. He kind of wanted to make his own way. I don't really understand the technicality of what it means to have a title fight or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I have known that it was the way to make money was through the bets and stuff. And I think it was like, if based on what I've heard, it's basically you have the betting, but it's not like you have to hide it. Because I think everybody did it to the point where it was like prohibition, you know? People still would drink and move alcohol around, even though it was illegal, just because like nobody wanted to follow it.
Well, because it seems like that's the thing that was actually keeping this whole thing afloat.
Exactly.
Monetarily was betting.
Nobody would want it. Nobody would have any incentive to fight without these programs.
Yeah, because in fighting, it's kind of nice. You actually get paid either way. And I actually think that you might, in certain fighting, you get paid the same amount of money no matter if you win or lose. So if you're a title contender, you're going to get paid more than the other person, even if you lose the fight. The thing is, your earning potential goes up if you win the fight. So then, because then you're a better boxer. So then your next fight, you will make more money. So
but then someone's like, hey, you need to lose this fight. I got a lot of money bet against you, you know?
Yeah. Which happens to Jake at one point in the movie. The climax of the relationship tension occurs when Jake thinks that Joey, his brother, is having an affair with his wife based on really nothing at all. Like, he has no basis to think this.
He's the most paranoid guy. He was super annoying.
Yeah. It was frustrating because he would just make up stuff out of thin air. Okay, one time Joey did find Vicky with the crime boss. That's gonna be
I wouldn't tell him. Are you kidding me? Because he would get himself killed.
Joey beat up one of the guys and got in trouble and had to go sort it out with the mob boss. And they were like, we're just going to forget about it. But
I shouldn't, but I will.
Yeah. But so he got that all cleared up. He really kind of put himself on the line for his brother there. But this continues to make Jake paranoid. And then...
But I think like he was... I think paranoia was a big part of this movie.
Yeah, paranoia.
He was paranoid when his wife said that thing about the pretty face of the other boxer. Yeah. And then after that it was like he was convinced that she was cheating on him, and you know, whatever. I mean, she likes other guys. He found out, but
he was also like, he wasn't at all a nice good person to be around.
No, he was just terrible
because he was so paranoid. And so, like, we see the contrast from the start of their relationship when they're in their honeymoon phase where it's, like, all lovey-dovey. And then it quickly turns. But if you saw anything about his last relationship with his wife, it seems like he has this propensity to become very, like, violent, aggressive in his attitudes towards his wife. It seemed like he kind of viewed Vicky, because of her beauty and how she was perceived by guys outside, like how she would have been perceived. He has her on this like pedestal, but he's also trying to control her, and so it's not really about crafting a relationship at a certain point. It's about maintaining. It's about his pride, because like if she cheated on him, that would hurt his pride,
Yeah, it's a trophy wife.
Yeah, so she's a trophy wife essentially, and she's frustrated about this, of course. So then her way of dealing with it is a little bit, if you're in this situation, seems dangerous, but I guess maybe you could understand it. I don't know. It probably wasn't the best move either to like go hang out with the crime boss just to say you're hanging out with him. Like that can't be.
That's my first move.
Not really putting you in a great.
You
situation.
get in with the most powerful guy in town.
That's true though. She might have had to do an extent.
She gets hit. She comes in with the bruise one day. He says, "Oh baby, what happened to you? Jake hit me. Oh, I'll whack him."
Yeah, that's true. That is protection.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's not what happened.
But that's not what happened. No. That would have been an interesting.
Although, like, she was. I mean, that's abuse. What he was doing to her throughout the movie, right?
Yeah,
he was just slapping her in the face.
Well, I'm getting to that. Like, as soon as he accuses her directly of having an affair with his brother, she starts to say, she just gets upset, and she's like, she is sarcastically saying that she's like slept with everyone in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And obviously that's like, somebody in this situation, that's a bad thing to say, but anything she would have said probably would have resulted in the same thing. Like, he's so angry at this point that like nothing she would have said would have, and he attacks her and hits her, and it's bad, and she gets out of the situation, and she's gonna leave, but then she ends up not leaving, which is interesting. That, you know, at this point it was still like, I don't know what the 1940s and 50s were like, but I feel like there was still this sort of domineering attitude that was more accepted in like an abusive sense.
Oh my goodness. So he was like grab her and pull her and like go in the other room.
Yeah. And people would have been like, and these relationships are complicated obviously. So it's like, you think like Vicky, you're like, well, how would she know not to just leave right now? But it's like, sometimes you're like, well, this guy's a successful boxer. Like, I want to be with him for the money and the status, not leave him. There might've been other reasons why, but whatever it was, she did it didn't necessarily escalate to this level physically after this point. But it didn't mean that Jake necessarily improved as a person. He does become a title boxer after like a 15-round battle. And then he has to like throw a fight, and that's really what like messes him up. Like the final blow to his like boxing career.
Yeah, and I think his brother had mentioned that before they got in the fight, that like that's people were predicting that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, and wasn't it like this whole situation with Vicky also involved Joey, and that's what broke up their relationship too. Yeah, because he accused her of, and he was like, "How could you say that about me?" Yeah, and that's what ruined their relationship. So Jake moves to Miami. He has his family still, but he opens a nightclub, which, is maybe not the best business for a married man with a family to be running, considering what the clientele usually are at these establishments. What? Like people looking to, have relationships with other people.
Isn't that all people?
Yeah, but like particularly romantic or...
Isn't that all people?
I mean, I guess, but a nightclub just attracts that type of clientele. And his big mistake, and this is bad, like really bad, this is where you see like he has not improved. In fact, I don't know what you can say he got
deproved,
worse, but he has definitely not gotten better, because he ends up getting caught having underage girls at his club and introducing them to men who presumably are not looking out for their good intentions.
Now this is where,
and it's such an uncomfortable scene where he's like, well, she kisses like she's 21, so she should say. And you realize like, oh my goodness, like, stop talking. I think it's interesting how Scorsese portrays this, because this should obviously make you uncomfortable, but Jake is just treating it like it's such a normal, like, this doesn't matter type thing, that you realize like how much he just doesn't care at this point about. He has no long-term perspective, and he just can't think right about these types of decisions, and it's ruining his life.
Yeah, I mean, his wife was 15, so it's only a year off. It's just kind of like, I feel like he was already into that. I don't know.
Yeah. And so he ends up in jail. I wasn't sure about this. He spent all this time trying to get the money to get out of the case, but I think he ends up going to jail for a little bit, and then he gets out and he goes to New York City, and he is like, he's like involved in like a burlesque nightclub is what it looked like, and he's like dating the girl who's like dancing, and he is also sort of like a stand-up comedian who's like not that funny. and he ends up running into Joey, who doesn't really want to talk to him or have anything to do with him, and he gets him to say, well, call me later. And that's really the best he gets in terms of making up with Joey. And then he ends up quoting, I could have been a contender from On the Waterfront. And then we see a Bible verse, which I have pulled up. John 9:24-26. A second time they summoned the man who had been blind. Give glory to God by telling the truth, they said. We know this man is a sinner. He replied, whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind and now I see. Then they asked him, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? This was a very strange verse to end the movie on. Because I don't think that... Who had their eyes opened in this movie to anything?
Maybe us.
Maybe it was us. Because it also says, like, this movie was dedicated to this person after the verse. So I wasn't sure whether... like whether it was a connecting between those two, like the movie and the dedication, or what the Bible verse represented.
Yeah, I don't know if it was dedicated to. Was it dedicated to Jake?
Jake LaMotta? No, it wasn't.
Okay,
I don't believe
it was dedicated to someone else. Then I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, this movie doesn't really portray. I don't know whether Jake LaMotta specifically reacted to this, or was. I'm assuming he was still alive.
So actually, Jake LaMotta's brother, Joseph, sued the production for $2.5 million for a poor depiction of him.
He thought he was poorly depicted?
Yep.
I mean, I guess I could see that, but he was definitely not like as poor as Jake was.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have any moments like Jake did that were like obvious, like horrible moments, other than he did not treat his wife the best in the movie at all. Like, and they all had those like things. Especially the treatment of women was kind of the thing that like you could see throughout by multiple characters was like a really bad thing that they were kind of highlighting.
Yeah, it was like they were less than nothing, you know?
Yeah, and it was like, it was showing you that, like, again, it's like he uses this, like, it's shown to be normal, but you realize, like, this shouldn't be normal, but this was normal to the people involved in the movie. It's not like Scorsese is like particularly having a character give exposition that's saying, look how badly these people are treating women. It's just it's revealed to you through the visual depiction in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
So
it's not even like a big plot point the way that they treat them. It's just like that's the lens you have to change from your time to their time to look through. So I appreciate that. It was just like really, some parts were like super cringy to watch, like especially like when you would slap her. It was just like, oh my goodness, like you can't. It's hard to. I don't know. It's hard to be like, oh yeah, this is great, you know. Even like I know like it's fake and everything, but you just watch it and you're like, oh, you know, like you cringe.
Yeah, and of course this movie didn't do very well in the box office because I think because of some of the content things, like especially in 1980. Like, this wasn't, like, a movie that people would have been, like, signing up to go see. They also didn't market it very well, apparently. But it ended up getting reviewed really well. Like, and people... I think it's in, like, the Library of Congress and all of that. It did very well. Like, I'm sure it's like, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Which is pretty, like, you would expect that from Martin Scorsese. But I think there's some of the themes of the movie would be, like... the main one's self-destruction. Like this guy is succeeding in one area of his life, but he's like doing everything else in his life to destroy the one thing he's successful at. And like he doesn't have the ability to make right choices. And even after he does, like he hits Vicky, he's like, "I'm sorry, babe, I won't do it again." And maybe we don't see him like do that specifically again, but he doesn't really change for the better after that. And you know, obsession, like nobody's thinking about like the impact that their decisions will have on like the rest of their life. Even Joey, it's like he's invested so much in his brother, but like, does it really benefit his life that he was involved with this guy, or that he got involved in boxing managing?
Maybe.
He had to deal with a lot of crap.
Yeah, but if he's the manager of the champion.
I mean, it might have been his best career option at that point, probably.
Compared to what? Yeah, I don't think
what else are you going to be doing?
I don't know.
I kind of thought that, like, the apartments that they were living in weren't, like, all that nice for, like, what it seemed like you would be making as a...
Ben, that's just because you're like, what, 10 times the poverty, 28,000 times the poverty line?
I guess that's
How much money do you make? Like 800 grand?
800 grand a year doing... Yeah. Well, it's a secret what I do.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
No, I'm
FedEx.
I'm kidding. Well, he also seemed to be, like, have some new money habits. Like, he had a really nice car. So, like, that's like, you get a bunch of money, you buy a car. It's, like, kind of like throwing your money away, but...
It's true. I agree.
I mean, unless you happen to buy it in the car market that we just went through, where it was, like, the value of used cars went way up.
Sure.
You had an extra car, you could sell it off for more money. That's the only scenario that would be beneficial at all.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I think, speaking of cars, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of cars, you're gonna want to invest in Hedman Anglin Agency. I said invest, but investing means buying into the company. But you can buy into the company by supporting it by buying insurance.
Not investing. Not
necessarily investing. Although I'm sure if you're like a large money investor, they might sit down and have a conversation with you. I'm guessing, but we're more on the side of things where, you know, we look at your car and are you really getting the best insurance? Like, you deserve better insurance than you're getting. I almost 100% guarantee that. Maybe there's somebody listening to this who really doesn't deserve better insurance, but they should get it anyway. You know, they should.
Yeah, maybe.
And you should be represented by somebody who actually cares about you as an individual, isn't part of a huge corporation.
Yes, customer service is very important. Do you want to know why? When's the last time you call a big corporation and don't get a robot right away? Huh? Never. Yeah, you just answered never.
Never. I mean, now it's like call to click number 7. The worst thing is calling hospital systems.
Yeah,
they're the worst.
Press 22873695 to reach this nurse. Oh wait, no, she's out. Wait, we have a new nurse in. Oh wait, that nurse died. Oh wait, what?
Yeah, it's like we'll send you to this office, and like they list off like 9 offices, and none of them are the office that you wanted. So you have to try to pick one so that somebody will hopefully pick up and then be able to give you the number to a different office where they might actually be able to answer your question.
Then you walk in. No, sir, you're not allowed in here. Wait, I'm not allowed in the OR room? Why not? OR?
Well, you're not scrubbed in. I don't care. I don't believe in germs.
I don't have COVID. Well, sir, that's not exactly all that we account for here.
Back when I was doing surgery, we didn't even do scrubs. We just got the tools out and we just started operating.
We just really got our hands dirty in there.
Yeah, these are soft surgeon these days. They they want to do less invasive procedures.
Yeah.
Why would they want to do that?
Back then,
is just opening everything up.
Just get the Swiss Army knife out. That's all the tools you need.
As much trauma on the body as possible.
Yeah. I mean, as long as they're sedated, right? When they wake up, as long as they got everything stitched up, right?
I mean, as long as they can lose a lot of blood, as long as they don't lose too much and die, but as much as we can without them dying.
We just collect their blood in buckets and pour it back in.
Yeah, pour it back in. Anyway, we're a little off topic now, but the point is, you don't want that kind of customer service. You want customer service.
Oh yeah, I forgot we're in an ad.
That Hedman Anglin can provide you.
No, but really, this is the thing. If your car has if you're like, man, my car needs insurance because the government tells me that, and that's true, they do. Then and you're illegal right now, and you should tell us because then we're gonna tell on you. So then you have to get insurance. By the way, first of all, second of all, Ben and I will dress up like mechanics and head over to your house and try to fix your car.
And the police will tell you have to buy Hedman Anglin insurance.
Yeah, and we'll bring them with us.
Yeah.
And we'll also bring a doctor who will stitch you up after we hit you.
And when Zach becomes a doctor, maybe he'll just do it, but we'll see.
No, not without charge.
No, he's not going to do it for free.
No, 800 grand. I'm really stuck on that right now.
You want to make 800 grand?
No, I know. I want a car that's 800
We know
grand.
an exact amount of money that Zach... Well, I guess Zach, future cardiothoracic surgeon, I guess.
I don't know. No. I want to be a botanist.
Anyway, we need to say the phone number. So the phone number is
614-486-7300. 614-486-7300. What's the last one?
0.
Oh, yeah.
Zach actually memorized it. I feel like I always forget it because I always have the luxury of being able to read it.
Yeah.
Maybe it shows a little bit about memory. Tell them that Ben and Zach sent you. Get your cardboard cut out.
And you want us to dress up like mechanics?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll bring a wrench.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We'll hit your engine with the wrench and see what happens.
And we can test out like how good their coverage is. We'll go wreck your car, and we'll see how much the rates
We'll go through all the paperwork for you.
Yeah.
Be like, how efficient is this? We'll time it. See how long it takes to get your car done.
Takes. If you really want to prove that it's the best. But I like working with them. They're great. They've been good to the podcast. So make sure you give them a look or give them a ring. Actually.
Yeah. Don't just look.
Yeah.
Give them a ring. Give them your money.
Give them a ring, and then just like Jake LaMotta got in the ring and beat someone up.
That was a good transition. We should probably use that one.
Yeah.
Use that transition to go back.
Into
I'm Ben right now.
Part,
I have to acknowledge.
Ever since Zach told me he doesn't like breaking up the podcast where we like say the transition. Ever since he said that, I haven't been able to stop myself from.
Ben's like, okay, next topic.
I haven't been able to like stop myself from making a joke, or like it makes me think about, oh no, I'm gonna transition, and then I do it anyway. And now I just talked about it. So. Well,
I did it jokingly.
That's one of my biggest shortcomings as a podcast. Is
that's all right.
As a podcast, as individually as a podcast.
Ben Stanhope podcast. I wonder what that would be about.
Who knows? Imagine me just doing a like rant style podcast.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know whether anybody could take that.
Roller coasters and what else are you gonna do? Like cheese or movies or whatever.
Lately, I've been listening to this one podcast.
Music.
Called The Undifferentiated Medical Student. And it's about this guy. He went to Case Western and he was trying to figure out what specialty he wanted to do. So he made a whole podcast where he just interviewed every doctor from every specialty. It's very interesting if you're interested in medicine at all.
Yeah, you should have told me about that.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you about it right now so that you can listen to it. It might be helpful for you. For me, I'm just listening as like it's actually just like interesting to listen to. So it's just pleasure listening for me.
Case Western, he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, he played semi-pro Swiss hockey.
Never mind.
And then he went back to medical school after that.
Okay, well, there you go.
It's pretty impressive.
Okay, some people are weird.
Swedish hockey.
Some people are weird.
Yeah, some people, they decide sports are more important, and then they decide that they were wrong, and then they go back.
Well, they don't decide. They realize they're not good enough to make it.
Yeah. I think he had, like, multiple shoulder injuries. Anyway, we're getting on a real tangent now. If you're interested in that, go listen to that podcast. I'm
sure someone out there really cares. Like, oh, he had multiple shoulder injuries.
No,
who's this guy from Case Western? I'm gonna look it up.
I'm like doing like report now.
The undifferentiated doctor.
He had 4 shoulder surgeries. Yeah, he's in for. He just had a total knee replacement.
Hysterectomy.
History of hypertension, type 2 diabetes.
They invented a new one for him. 3, where the insulin receptors don't work and the insulin doesn't work.
My favorite thing is talking to people when I'm in the hospital. Well, this one guy told me. I was at the hospital. He told me that you have to watch movies. He actually might have mentioned, like, he said Martin Scorsese specifically, because he said you have to watch movies in order to cope with what you deal with in the hospital.
Oh, I watched. For hospice, we had a mandatory episode to watch of The West Wing. Have you heard of that? And it's an episode where they go into like a hospital and there's a patient, like a homeless patient. She chooses to die, and it's such a weird like episode that they shoehorned in.
Yeah.
But, like, that was a mandatory thing because we were supposed to, like, deal with it in the way that the characters realize they need to deal with it in the show.
I see. Interesting. I think he was saying it from, like, a broader, like, if you're more face-to-face with death, so, like, you have to watch movies that make you deal with...
Like World War Z?
Reality.
Or what does he mean? How far do you take that?
I don't know. I mean, this is his philosophy, too.
I just watch Jeffrey Dahmer short films all day?
Just like the most depressing films, like after, which it's interesting that he finds comfort in that because other people would probably find comfort in, and even I think I told him about the podcast. So if you're listening right now, I'm not going to say your name, but like I thought it was very interesting what you
Jeffrey Epstein. That's his name.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. That's Ben's friend.
Yeah, my friend. So yeah, Martin Scorsese. How do you think he makes his movies so good? This is a problem. Directors are not consistent these days. They make a good movie.
Do you want them to be consistent like Martin?
Yeah.
Really?
But do you think it's because he like sticks to one thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what you want, right? Is that what you want?
I guess, yeah. Like, I think there's this idea that, like, in order to be the best film director of all time, you have to be, like, so dynamic.
Have a style
where
like
you
Quentin.
can make every type of movie. But, really, how many people have been successful in doing that?
Not Adam McKay.
No. But he... yeah, he transitioned to black comedy.
You couldn't even say his name without coughing.
It makes me cough.
No, I think Quentin Tarantino is one of the examples of doing different movies and doing really well.
Yeah. But he's able to maintain a consistent style.
He is a consistent, like, he has Quentin Tarantino-isms in all of his movies.
And I think it's, as a director, it's good to have a style that's like, this is yours. Because
Nolan has a style.
Yeah, Nolan has a style. It's like some guys don't have as much of a style. Like Tom Ford, for example. He directed the movie Spotlight, which I think won an Academy Award. But you would never... Like, you wouldn't watch that movie and be like, oh, yeah, Tom Ford directed that. Or you wouldn't even know who Tom Ford was, because it's not the style of movie that, like, it's more about the story that they're telling you about, and it's not at all about the style of the movie.
When I think,
like, Jordan Peele is like, oh, I make these
like,
horror-type movies with these themes.
He's only done 3, though.
Yeah, but...
So he's still getting his foot in the door.
But I'm guessing you would... If you
probably keep stick to that.
You would be able to tell the other 2 were also his, is what I'm saying.
True. I think when I think of style, the one that comes to mind is David Lynch. I think his style is distinct just because it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you got to infer a lot of things.
His characters are like the same style of character regardless of
just
the movie.
off-putting.
There's like off-putting and like kind of like spacey almost. Like they're weird characters. The way he writes is he's able to make them consistent. He also uses like all of these guys use the same actors too. Mm-hmm. So that adds consistency as well because...
What about the Coen brothers?
I think they stand out as being more diverse.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
But they do have a style of like black comedy that's very much there.
But it's more subtle than all the people we just said.
And they I think as a formula of making movies, they were one of the best because when they were working, they would make movies like within 1 or 2 years of each other and just keep making them, and they were all like pretty good. Like
well, there's 2 of them.
What?
There's 2 directors. They can just tag team.
That's what I'm saying. They had divided their roles. From my understanding, they had a script and they stick exactly to the script. So they're really efficient when they film. They're not looking for like trying to find something in the and
they're not method acting.
They're not like David Fincher where he's taking like 100 scenes to get the 100 takes to get the perfect one, or Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Like, which is why like Stanley Kubrick only made like 10 movies because by the end he was like making one movie every 10 years because of how long it would take.
Wait, so remind me Scorsese's next film next year.
His next film.
Do you have the synopsis? Because I would like to know. I think I want to watch it. Now, The Irishman. That's Scorsese's first film that is on a streaming service, correct? That came straight to streaming service. He
was really big on. He's made stands against Marvel movies specifically.
Oh yeah, everybody knows that. Like he's the guy that people look to against Marvel movies, and he kind of created this wave of like, are we tired of Marvel? Our Marvel atrophy.
Yeah. But it's also because he's from a different era where, like, it's almost an era that probably people kind of envy now because it was based on stars. It wasn't like the old system of Hollywood where it was super formulaic. Like, the way that it worked was, like, in the 50s and 60s, Hollywood, there was a formula. Like, you watch it, they all had these fake accents. There's still some good movies from those times, but... There was guys who, like during the 60s, they really broke out of this with movies like Clockwork Orange, Midnight Cowboy that were like really edgy and controversial. And then in the 70s, they got into these grimy movies like Taxi Driver. And then we had the film school era where it's like these directors and then these like method actors.
Like in School of Rock.
Yeah.
Like Jack Black.
The Godfather also was probably a big part.
Oh, yeah, that one too.
That's more of a Hollywood epic, but it's still like same sort of thing based on a book. More of a, like more edgy. I don't want to say edgy. Edgy seems like not the right word. No, serious.
That one stood out because of the way that the story was told, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a little bit more grandiose.
Grandiose is a good word. Yeah.
These are more like, they focus on the humanity of characters, perhaps.
Sure.
And it's maybe nowadays it's sparked even more so with like A24 films where they like actually focusing on like two people in a movie as opposed to like some of these movies did, but they still had some like Hollywood-isms to them.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right that The Godfather would be the exact opposite of these A24 films. It's more like the themes are what is in the center of the movie.
Yeah.
And like the passing of generations, the movement of different families, and how do you determine family and business and mixing those together and stuff like that. And it's just like, it is cool to see those types of movies, but you're right. The ones that we see now are character movies, but really the ones that we see now are just action movies where it's just plot. Heavy plot, exposition constantly.
Yeah.
And that gets mind-boggling.
Mini stories in a bigger story.
Sure. Well, yeah, you're talking about the cinematic universes, right?
Right, yeah.
I'm talking about like in general, like if they weren't cinematically universed,
yeah,
then you're a lot of it, like think of like Hobbs and Shaw if it wasn't part of the franchise Fast and Furious. That movie itself is very action heavy, has some quippy lines, but it's like, where are the themes in it? Maybe they learn a lesson.
The themes are like the B plot.
No, but it's not. I'd say, this is my stance, there are no themes. I think that they learn lessons, but I don't think the movie has a theme.
There's no theme. They're not like trying to engage with some sort of concept.
I think that the lesson that they learn is shoehorned in with some random act that they have to do at the end to save someone or sacrifice themselves. Yeah. And I don't think the movie, whereas The Godfather, or even this movie, with Raging Bull, we should probably talk about it, right?
Yeah.
This movie, the whole part of the entire time, the theme is prevalent. This guy is angry. And the whole plot is driven by the decisions that this guy makes due to his anger. And it really does destroy his life, and you can tell he gets fatter throughout the show. We never mentioned that. He gets huge. And it's like, and he destroys relationships. He's toxic. He hits his wife. He is just not a great guy overall. He wins fights, but at what cost? And I don't know if he fully realizes that. He's not learning a lesson. That movie has themes in it. So I think that's the difference. I think that's what's being lost. And I think that's not what Scorsese said, but I think that's what he meant. Stuff like similar to that.
Yeah.
Because I read his whole article about it, and it was
right.
Yeah, I mean, he was just saying people are gonna have atrophy of getting the same McDonald's meals over and over.
Right. Yeah, so. That's a good point. That's a good word too.
Yeah.
Like just like if you don't, it's like you're working the same muscle. Well, that's not really what atrophy is, but.
It's pretty much the opposite.
Atrophy is like you're not working any muscles. No, that is it. That's like you don't have to work any thinking muscles when you're going to these movies. Mm-hmm. Unless you're going to engage with the cinematic universe concept. There are some muscles there, but if you look, you're still consuming the individual movies themselves, and on their own, you're just watching. You're not engaging with anything, and that gives you atrophy. And maybe that does put the movie industry in a bad place, even if there's always going to be a niche for independent movies, and it's good that A24's been able to. The thing that they've been able to do is make a brand identity so that people will watch independent movies.
Yeah, but right?
They watch them because they're A24.
No, I know, and I think that's becoming a problem too.
Yeah,
but a slight problem.
Yeah, it's not quite the same, and it still will yield some positive results, but there's still some issues with A24.
Although I'm not giving up in A24 because we've said this so many times. The biggest surprise of this year so far was Everything Everywhere All at Once. We really enjoyed it compared to all the other movies we saw, they're all letdowns.
Yeah.
This is up there with my best movies I've seen in 2022.
Yeah.
Like up there with Deer Hunter.
Yeah, this would be up here.
Man, De Niro doing a good job.
Yeah. And I thought Deer Hunter legitimately is probably the best movie I've watched this year.
Yeah.
So this era of films, it's like something that's like I obviously like my film watching is more skewed towards modern times, so it's like maybe I should go back and continue to watch more of this like era where they were, because they deal with so many interesting moral issues in a unique way, and
they address them head on because the country's not split. Right.
Yeah,
is that fair?
Like now it's like anytime you address a moral issue, it's like,
for example, Blonde. There's lots of stuff. I'm not gonna say what. There's lots of stuff comes up with the Marilyn Monroe movie. Lots of stuff comes up in it, and you get a 50% because half the people hate it.
Right. Yeah, and even like we joked about Adam McKay, like the way that the movies are talking about moral problems is very political, and there's this idea that every moral problem is a political problem.
Sure.
So, and maybe that is true, but these types of moral problems are on an individual level.
No,
They're not societal, but where we're at, people care more about societal issues.
No, but you said it perfectly. You said the problem is every moral thing is political, when in fact it should be every political thing is moral.
Yeah.
I think people are putting politics above morals, and the majority is picking what the morals are, and that's not great, because we're going to pick the worst things. Whereas we need a moral system, which obviously we believe there is, and it's above these politics, informing the politics. So I think that's what you stated the problem correctly, whereas people just have the hierarchy wrong. And that is expounds itself. That's not the correct use of the word, but you get it. And going into the media, into film, into TV, just like these people will make comments like, I think of She-Hulk, the worst Marvel project I've ever seen in my entire freaking life, and I'm not going to say that lightly at all. Literally, if Megan Thee Stallion's twerking with She-Hulk and Jennifer Walters in an episode, that's where I stop, okay?
Yeah.
And it started early on. I'm going to be quick then. I'm sorry. I've already ranted to you about this. She-Hulk started out the show by saying, so Hulk's been through a lot, right? He literally saved the entire universe. He snaps everyone back, right?
Yeah.
She-Hulk says, no, you don't even know anger, okay? Because I'm a woman. And I'm like, shut up. And that's the thing. Hollywood doesn't know how to make a good female character. They make them toxic feminists.
Yeah.
Toxic.
I mean, it's true. This is
Captain Marvel's another example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Charlize Theron, anything she's in.
Yeah. Really, it is a problem. Like it's good that we've addressed, like, yeah, there was this like over representation of men. So like, yeah, you can make an interesting story about female. The problem is you actually have to make the story interesting. And a lot of these directors, like Don't Worry Darling's a good example. A really good actress in the movie, Florence Pugh, but you ruin the story with like everything is like not her fault, but it's not a good movie.
Like, I understand people are sexist in everyday lives, like worse sexist than, like, I think some people say things are sexist that I don't think are sexist, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, there are some things, but I do think most things that are sexist are. And I think sometimes the glass ceiling is already broken, okay? You don't need to be punching broken glass. Yeah. That's the thing. So I think in some areas it still needs to be whatever that means, in whatever vague sense I want to say that. But I think some people are beating a dead horse with these movies, and like, we get it, okay? Like, I respect women. I literally do. Ben does too, and it's just like, and people can disagree with us. I don't care. I really don't. Unless you're a woman, then I care. I'm just joking.
If you're one and want to email us after this episode.
Joking. No, I'm joking. But I'm just saying, this was just a side tangent on She-Hulk of toxic feminism. And it's ruining these movies. And that's my sub-example in our example of morals being below politics, which is in our sub-example of how people are kind of ruining their movies, like Adam McKay.
Because what is at the heart of every movie? It's the character.
Well, maybe.
It's right? Like
theme and character.
I
like theme better.
But the theme runs through the character.
It can, for sure.
In a lot of movies. Yeah. So
no, you're right.
Especially certain style. I suppose there are ways that you can have the theme be like the undercurrent of something else, sort of. It just depends on the type of movie, I suppose.
No, you're right.
But a lot of times, in order to nail the theme, you have to nail the character, because you need to engage the audience with, like, why should I care about this character? That's why I watched Synecdoche, New York, for example, recently.
Is that how do you pronounce it?
What?
How pronounce it?
Synecdoche.
Oh, I was trying to read it, your review, and I was trying to pronounce it, and that's not
Synecdoche. And it's like, conceptually it's a really cool movie. It's super meta, like hits on all of that sort of cool thing, but it's kind of just like a writer like vomiting onto a script and like creating a character who's like not, like, you don't care about the character at all. And so this thing that should be this cool concept is kind of ruined by this idea of like, the theme is existentialism. It does what it needs to capture the theme, but it, like, you don't care about the character. So there's just this, like, it'll never be that movie that you're like, I love this.
And that's
because
100% correct.
Yeah.
Because existentialism, postmodernism, if you're going to make movies just about those, then nobody's going to watch movies, because there's nothing to obtain from them. Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to learn anything.
It tells you what you're already scared of, which is that nothing matters.
Yeah.
And it's just confirming your fear.
If I was a fully existentialist and postmodern, believer, or mindset, if I was in that mindset, and if I would watch all these movies, they would be cool because, some people believe in postmodernism or even in modernism somewhat, that you can find meaning within other things. But to take it to postmodernism is to say that you can't find meaning in anything. And if you can't find meaning in anything, then you're just watching molecules float around in space for these movies.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand that. I think there's cognitive dissonance, which means that they have some structural moral system in their head that they're watching these movies and interpreting them by.
Right.
Right? So
everybody has a moral system that
they have to, or they kill themselves, right?
Even if they're postmodernists, they have
the only true
structure.
postmodernists have already killed themselves.
Probably. Yeah.
Right? Is that true? Am I fair to say that?
I mean, maybe not, because like if you're fully nihilist, you could just kind of do whatever and it wouldn't matter. You could just say, if you had a nice enough life in terms of comfort, perhaps, then you might be able to deal with it.
Yeah, but even if you're nihilist and moving around just randomly in space, just stealing shopping carts and killing people, like I think everyone has some morals in the back of their head. Once you realize that you have that moral system, then you kill yourself.
Oh, okay. Right.
That's what I was trying to say. So maybe. Some people wouldn't realize it and could still be, killing people.
Right. Yeah. So with Raging Bull specifically,
it's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's nothing because we look at the filmmaker, he's Catholic. So he has
he is.
Yeah.
Scorsese. Yeah.
Scorsese is Catholic. So he has a moral framework that he's making these films that are like, I've heard it described as he is like, I heard somebody talking about Wolf of Wall Street, which is again reached new levels of like debauchery and movie, like
the nuns are shaming Scorsese.
Like, it was a full of that kind of thing, and it has that movie particularly because it's about financial crime. It's not about the mob or murdering people. It has this lure of like this guy Jordan Belfort's living the life that everybody wants to live, like. And if you were coming from a like Catholic or Christian perspective, you would view it as a sinful life because it's full of like partying and excess and but there's still that like urge that everyone has to like experience those sorts of things, or at least a subset of people.
You got to do it to learn,
right? Because they see it there. You get a lot of momentary pleasure at once.
Now
and everyone does think that would make them happy, like in some small part of their brain at least, if it not more.
That's true.
And so we see that, and so as the viewer, you can be like engaged, like this is so awesome, like look at all these crazy parties, like that would be, and you're like, wait, why am I thinking that? Like, and it's like a litmus test for you as the viewer to be like, why am I justifying this guy's actions? Like this guy's horrible.
It was Breaking Bad all over again.
He's like screwing people over. Yeah. He's and it's like it's the same thing as this movie where like he loses his bombshell wife at the end because he destroyed his life essentially. And he does get out of it without the worst consequences, I suppose. But objectively speaking, he pretty much ruined his any opportunity of having like a long-term successful life. But it was because he was living so recklessly that was never going to happen. Probably. Oh
yeah, I meant to ask you this. This is just completely random. Do you like Wolf of Wall Street or Catch Me If You Can better?
I think I like Catch Me If You Can better just because the excess like. I get why
stuff you could have cut out,
but to me it was like unnecessary. How much
unnecessarily nude?
Yeah, like there's just too much stuff to like skip through, and it's not the greatest.
Okay, yeah, no, I like Catch Me If You Can better.
Yeah, so Catch Me If You Can is a good one too. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's more fun, I think.
Tom Hanks,
and it gets you to root for the bad guy. Breaking Bad's a good example too, although I think it has more time to flesh out that like. A couple of things.
And I think in Breaking Bad, it's almost like you start hating the character.
Yeah.
It's not like Wolf of Wall Street where you're cheering him on.
Right.
It's like you hate Walter White by the end of
it. I felt like I didn't start hating him like early enough. Like
that's a good litmus test right there. What season did you start hating him?
Like not until the end. Like it was like once he started doing like all the like.
Not when he steals his own kid. That's when I hated him. When he steals his daughter. And takes her to the gas station.
Which episode? Which season is that in?
He steals his baby from Skylar.
Is that season 4?
I think it's season. Yeah.
No, it's season 5.
It's before Hank finds out.
Yeah. That season's when he started doing stuff that's like you couldn't justify it at all. Like there's no way that you could.
Well, no.
You started to. The
pretty sure he kills a guy in episode 2. So.
Well, he was a bad guy though.
Whatever.
Which like so is Walter, but that's beside the point.
It's when he starts killing good guys.
Yeah,
And then there's no going back once Todd kills that kid.
Yeah, that was a rough. Well, spoiler
I
alert
love
for
Todd.
Breaking Bad.
That's another example.
You wouldn't really understand that reference, though, I guess, if you...
Unless we explain
Todd,
it.
I hated. I think it was good that they had more evil characters, but then they also showed you the family perspective at the end, which I think is really when you like turn against Walter, because you
Oh man,
you see the perspective of the family
when Hank and
so.
Skylar and Hank's stupid wife and
oh, they're so annoying.
I hate her.
They were so okay. I know we're like now really on
No,
the
just
tangent
say
with
it. She
Breaking
was
Bad,
so annoying.
but they did such a good job on Breaking Bad in making the good characters so annoying. Like they were Hank, Marie, and Skylar.
Hank was not annoying.
Okay.
Hank was the best character in the
Hank
show.
was a great, but they still frame it like there's a whole like video essay on how they frame him to where you don't like him in some parts, and then you realize that he's at the end you realize he was a hero the whole time.
No, but you don't. I swear,
he's the only character who like doesn't have very many flaws.
No, I swear, because in the middle of the show you hate him because he's so rude to his wife. He's just trying to go after your favorite character, which is Walter or Jesse. So you don't really like Hank. But then by the end, you're like, oh my gosh, like once Hank, spoiler, once Hank dies, once all that happens, you're like, he was the good guy in the show, but you don't realize that till after it happens.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about the show.
Yeah.
One of them.
So maybe like Martin Scorsese was the forefather that made Breaking Bad possible, because the anti-hero thing, all of that.
Because you're saying because of Taxi Driver.
Yeah, well, not directly because of it's like it's a loose connection. It's not like he directly influenced them making Breaking Bad, but
I've heard video essays where they compare Breaking Bad to Taxi Driver.
Okay. I guess I could see that in some aspects.
Or the Joker too.
Yeah, but those are more about like actual loners. Like Hank's like a not Hank. Walter is like a hidden loner. He's a loner, but it feels like he's surrounded.
Maybe it could be more like Saul Goodman.
Yeah, maybe
he's a loner, kind of.
Yeah, but he's not. He doesn't have like PTSD, which is what.
Well, have you seen Better Call Saul?
Oh, maybe I haven't.
Okay.
So he does have PTSD.
I won't spoil anything.
Okay. Interesting.
It's really good.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Raging Bull is not a complicated movie. So, like, watch it and you'll just experience it. And I think that's my favorite part about it is, like, you're just in it. Like Zach told me before this that it doesn't feel like a movie. And I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. It's like life. You're just watching life, somebody's life. It's like a true, and there's no narration, which is a differentiating point between this and other movies. I think that makes those movies more movie-like, and I think that's why people like them. Like, I would say Goodfellas is a more enjoyable movie to watch because there's more aspects of it that they make entertaining. Where this movie really just honed in on the like, this is this character. Look at all of these decisions he's making. Make judgments about them as the viewer, and then end with some vague.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even hype up the fight.
It's not a sports movie. The fights aren't really that cool. They're cool cinematography wise, but
he just goes right. It just cuts right into the middle of the fight.
Yeah,
and I think that's great.
Yeah, it's not like Rocky. They're not building up the fight forever.
Yeah, you get like 8 fights in this movie.
Yeah,
and it's like Creed 2. You get like 2 fights that take a half hour to build up because he's crying and trying to worry about what's happening. Even though I love those movies.
Yeah, they're definitely. It's decidedly different from those kinds of movies.
Oh, for sure.
So, all in all, like I obviously had high expectations for this, and I think they were met. It was good to be back on the train of watching a good movie after watching some that weren't as good.
Is RD in any horror movies?
I don't know.
Look it up right now.
I'm gonna look it up.
If it is, we should do it for October.
Because that definitely would not be like his choice. Although he is going to be in Amsterdam, which we were talking about maybe.
Yep.
Boy, I hope that's a good movie.
That'd be so disappointing. That's like one of the last straws where we quit movies.
Yeah, because it's like every movie that looks like it's going to be good would like all of a sudden not be.
So we need to go and look for a bad one.
Here's a horror movie, Dirty Grandpa. He's in.
It's not a horror movie.
I'm not seeing any that like stand out to me like that. They're horror movies. Let me just look it up. Robert De Niro horror movie. That would probably have been the smarter thing to do.
It's all right if not. It would just be really cool.
You know a good Robert De Niro movie that we should review sometime that I have never seen. I just assume it's good because I've heard Heat.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And on the rewatchables, they're really into Heat because they like. I think it was the first one they did. Something like that.
So it's their good time.
Although I have my gripes with the rewatchables. Bill Simmons. Now I'm just taking jabs at people in the industry. His takes on movies are just like horrendous sometimes.
Why is that?
Because he has he's the guy who runs the he owns the podcast network that's on. So he's on the podcast. But the other guys that he has on with him know way more about movies than he does. And he just comes on with like the most hot and horrible takes about movies. And he loves when people are famous and successful, and so he doesn't care at all about. He's always comparing everything to the NBA, and like.
Is he like?
They're not always comparable.
What's that guy? That's the famous TikToker, Tate. What's that guy? Something Tate.
I don't know.
No, like the strong guy, like make money.
Oh, Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate, yes.
He's not like Andrew Tate.
Come on, that's what Andrew Tate would do.
That's what Andrew Tate would be like. This is stupid. This is a dumb movie. I have a Bugatti. You shouldn't even be watching movies.
You should be being on the grind.
He was in a psychological horror movie called Hide and Seek with Dakota Fanning.
Would that be good, you think?
But the consensus is that it was derivative, illogical, and somewhat silly.
Isn't that all horror movies?
Yeah, I feel like it. The thing, it also got 13%.
Never mind.
We should do a famous horror movie. A little better than that.
What horror movie do you want to do?
Okay. Selfishly, I really would want to do Reanimator.
What is that one?
Not famous at all. I'd have to look at it a little bit closer though, because it's one of those weirder like. Let me pull up a synopsis. A young scientist. Wait, that does not give a good synopsis at all.
A young scientist. Yeah, that wasn't that great.
Okay, let's see.
Could be anything.
I don't want to read a plot though. I want to read a synopsis. Why is there not a good synopsis?
I don't know. Do you remember what the trailer was? I'm assuming.
Sorry, I'm really messing this up, guys.
I'm assuming someone animated, and then they had to redo it, and that's the story.
It's like a mix between horror and comedy, and it's super gory.
Oh, good! I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah, so we should do.
What's it on Hulu?
It's on Canopy if you have it. You can probably get.
I have Canopy. Don't worry.
Get that through Ohio State.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies like that. I remember I'm really into the like kind of campy but like in a good way horror movies from the 80s. So that's why I want to watch it.
What was the one that we watched with Kevin Bacon?
Oh, wait, not The Evil Dead.
No, it was the one that we watched with Halloween 2018.
Oh, not Friday the 13th. That one.
It was.
That was the movie, but I don't think that was a good example of a good campy horror movie.
It was so campy.
Because it was boring.
It was boring?
I would say.
I thought it was good.
It's all right. It's a classic. You have to respect it for being a classic.
Nightmare on Elm Street was better.
Nightmare on Elm Street was better. And I imagine, I haven't seen Halloween.
Halloween's good.
But I imagine Halloween's much better than
it's pretty
Friday
good.
the 13th.
Oh.
So, yeah, I'm excited about Spooktober. Hopefully I end up watching a lot of horror movies. That'd be cool.
And we're gonna be doing Top Gun in the middle of Spooktober.
Yeah, that's true. We're a little late to the top. We did not hit that one at the.
It's like a double episode though. It's like two movies.
Yeah, but really it's because we had to schedule Scott, and his schedule's so busy. We had to like schedule him out like 3 months. So,
it was 3 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So I mean, that's how it works. We'll get maybe our podcast will create a resurgence in the demand, and they'll put it back in the theater.
Oh yeah,
that would be funny.
The original Top Gun,
or maybe both of them.
Oh, the latter one.
The latter one, probably more so. I have thoughts on the latter one, but they're both at least the latter one's pretty good. It's a pretty good movie.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Not the best movie of the summer, as everybody says.
No, Everything Everywhere All at Once is better.
I agree.
But I will say that I wouldn't necessarily take my mom to see Everything Everywhere All at Once. So
oh no!
I would take my mom to see Top Gun.
Your mom would get a headache.
Yeah,
she would be like, "What's
I wouldn't take my
on?
daddy. I wouldn't take a lot of my family to see that.
Ben just doesn't like taking people places. He likes to go places by himself.
Right. Yeah. Loner.
Yep. One time I saw Ben in the Cheesecake Factory, and I was with my girlfriend, and Ben was there, and he was just sitting by himself, like on his phone, like playing, I think it was Candy Crush or something.
Right.
And he was in there, like, and I was like, "Hey Ben, what are you doing?" He's like, bro, I just got to level 538 in Candy Crush. I'm in the Candy Cane Kingdom. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool, man. Don't you like have a job or something? He goes, no, I've been living off of Biden's money that he's been giving me during the COVID pandemic. And I was like, oh man, do you want to work for me? And he goes, no, it's all right. I was like, I'll pay you $100,000 a year. He's like, no. I was like, how about 300? He's like, all right. So now he's my secretary.
Okay. I realized that I just stopped paying attention to what you were saying. I halfway through, I was like, man, that was probably really funny, and I just ignored Zach for that whole time.
No, you can listen later.
Yeah. I guess now I have something to listen to. No, that Zach knows that. I don't listen to anything. This is actually not a conversational podcast at all. Like, I say my thing, and then I shut off my brain, and Zach says his thing. And somehow he just thinks that I reacted to what he said. But
no, I like to talk to Ben.
No, I like it. Talking to Zach, too. Oh, that's so cute that we like each other.
All right.
A lot of podcast co-hosts wouldn't. It's a business relationship.
Sure.
Ours is also a business relationship.
Sure.
But we can also.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I'm gonna close the vault.
Okay. Go for it.
But